I used to believe my wife, and I had the kind of marriage people envied. Emily and I had been together for 8 years, and although work kept me busy, I always made sure she never lacked anything. Every morning I kissed her goodbye before leaving for the construction company where I worked as a project manager. She smiled, waved from the front porch, and texted me sweet messages throughout the day. If someone had told me she was secretly inviting another man into our home the moment my car disappeared around the corner, I would have laughed in their face. I had no idea that my perfect life was already built on carefully rehearsed lies. The first crack appeared on a rainy Tuesday. I forgot an important folder at home and drove back only 20 minutes after leaving. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed a black SUV slowly turning the corner at the end of the street. It wasn't parked in front of my house, so I ignored it. Emily answered the door, looking strangely nervous. Her hair was messy, she was breathing heavily, and she seemed startled to see me. She blamed it on cleaning the attic, but something about the way she blocked the hallway with her body stayed in my mind long after I returned to work. That evening, she acted sweeter than ever, almost as if she were trying to erase my memory of the awkward encounter. Over the following weeks, little things refused to make sense. Our electricity bill suddenly increased, even though Emily insisted she spent most afternoons visiting her sister. Fresh coffee mugs appeared in the sink when I hadn't been home. Once, I found a men's shoe print on the wooden floor near the back door. It was larger than mine and carried a different tread pattern. Emily laughed and claimed it must have been left by the plumber, who supposedly fixed the kitchen faucet. I wanted to believe her, because trusting the person you love feels easier than accepting a painful truth. Still, my instincts kept whispering that someone else had been inside my house. One Friday afternoon, my elderly neighbor, Mrs. Harper, waved me over while I was mowing the lawn. She hesitated before speaking, clearly worried she might offend me. Then she quietly asked whether I had hired a young man to help with house repairs during the week. My stomach tightened immediately. When I asked why, she explained that she had seen the same man enter my house several mornings after I left for work. According to her, he always stayed for a few hours before leaving just before lunchtime. She assumed he was a contractor until she noticed he never carried any tools. I thanked her politely, pretending it was nothing important, but inside my world had begun to collapse. That night, I barely slept. I replayed every suspicious moment from the past few months, trying to convince myself there had to be another explanation. Maybe Mrs. Harper had mistaken the house. Maybe Emily was helping a friend in secret. Maybe I was allowing jealousy to poison my judgment. But every excuse sounded weaker than the last. The next morning, instead of confronting Emily without proof, I made a decision that would change everything. I ordered a tiny motion-activated camera no larger than a USB charger. It looked completely ordinary and could record high-definition video whenever movement was detected. I placed it discreetly on a bookshelf facing the living room before leaving for work on Monday. Driving away that morning felt different. My hands gripped the steering wheel tighter than usual because I knew that by the end of the day, my entire future could change forever. Every hour dragged by painfully. I checked the camera's mobile app repeatedly, resisting the urge to watch the live feed. Around 9:17 a.m., a notification finally appeared on my phone. Motion detected. My heartbeat pounded so loudly I could barely hear my coworkers speaking. I locked myself inside an empty conference room and opened the recording. Emily walked into the living room, wearing the same smile she used to reserve for me. Seconds later, she opened the front door without even checking who was outside. The man who stepped inside wasn't a stranger. He was Daniel, my former college roommate, and one of the few people I still considered a close friend. The moment Emily wrapped her arms around him and kissed him, every excuse I had invented disappeared forever. I sat frozen, unable to breathe as they laughed together inside the home I had spent years building for my family. But the most shocking part wasn't the kiss. It was hearing Daniel say, he still has absolutely no idea, and after today, we'll make sure he never finds out. At that moment, I realized the hidden camera had uncovered something far bigger than an ordinary affair. The recording ended before I could hear the rest of Daniel's sentence. But I didn't need to. The evidence on my phone had already shattered everything I believed about my marriage. I sat alone in that conference room for nearly 20 minutes, staring at the frozen image of my wife smiling into another man's arms. Anger rushed through me, followed by disbelief, then a strange calm. Storming home would only warn them that I knew. If they were hiding something bigger than an affair, I needed to understand the full picture first. For the first time in my life, I chose patience over emotion, and that decision would become my greatest advantage. Over the next 10 days, I pretended nothing had changed. Every morning I kissed Emily goodbye exactly as before and drove to work with a smile on my face. The tiny camera quietly captured everything. Daniel visited 4 more times, always within 15 minutes of my departure. Their conversations revealed that the affair had been going on for almost a year. But one afternoon, I heard something far more disturbing. Daniel spread documents across my dining table and said, "Once he signs the refinancing papers, we'll convince him to put both names on the investment account. After that, leaving him will be easy." My heart sank. Their betrayal wasn't only emotional. They had been planning to steal the future I had worked years to build. Instead of confronting them, I contacted a family attorney and a financial advisor. Without raising suspicion, I separated my personal savings, froze several joint financial changes, and canceled the refinancing appointment Emily believed was already scheduled. My lawyer advised me to document everything before taking action. By the end of the week, I had dozens of video clips, phone records, and financial evidence showing both the affair and their manipulation. Every lie they told only strengthened my position. Emily thought she was controlling the story, never realizing that every smile, every secret meeting, and every whispered conversation was being preserved as evidence against her. Then I set the final stage. I invited Emily to a celebration dinner at our house, claiming I'd received a major promotion. She seemed unusually excited, probably believing her financial plans were about to succeed. I also invited Daniel, telling him I wanted to thank my old friend for supporting us through difficult times. Neither of them suspected anything. My attorney waited quietly in the guest room with sealed documents, while 2 close family members arrived early under the excuse of helping prepare dinner. I wasn't looking for revenge through violence or public humiliation. I wanted the truth to expose itself in front of the people they had deceived. Dinner began with laughter and fake smiles. Emily raised a glass and toasted to our future together. Daniel even joked about lifelong friendship. I listened without interrupting. Then I stood, connected my phone to the television, and simply said, "Before we celebrate, I'd like everyone to watch something." The room fell silent as the first video began to play. There was Emily opening the front door. There was Daniel walking inside. Then came the hug, the kiss, and the conversations about hiding the affair. Clip after clip followed. No dramatic speech was necessary. Their own words became the loudest accusation. Emily's face turned pale. Daniel couldn't even look at me. For several long seconds, nobody spoke. Emily finally whispered my name and reached for my hand, but I stepped back. She tried to explain that it had just happened and that she never intended to hurt me. Then another recording played, the one where they discussed transferring my assets after tricking me into signing financial papers. Every excuse died instantly. My attorney calmly entered the room, placed divorce papers on the table, and explained that every important financial account had already been secured legally. Daniel realized there would be no money waiting for him, no easy escape, and no happy ending. Their perfect plan had collapsed before it ever began. I signed the final page without saying a single angry word. Emily broke into tears, begging for another chance, insisting she still loved me. But love doesn't survive where trust is buried beneath months of calculated deception. Daniel quietly walked toward the front door, only to find my family standing there, having witnessed everything. He left without another sentence, knowing there was nothing left to defend. As they disappeared from my life, I looked around the house we had once shared. It felt strangely peaceful. The tiny device hidden on my bookshelf hadn't just exposed an affair. It had revealed the truth before it was too late. Sometimes justice doesn't arrive through revenge. Sometimes it arrives through patience, evidence, and the courage to walk away from people who never deserve your trust.